The bullet wasn't meant for Alex Morgan's K-9 partner. It was meant for her. But Duke, with his finely tuned instincts and unwavering loyalty, lunged in front of her just as the crack of gunfire shattered the warehouse silence. The German Shepherd's body jerked violently before crumpling to the concrete floor, blood pooling beneath his thick fur. Alex's scream tore through her throat as she dropped to her knees beside him, pressing her hands against the wound while shouting for backup into her radio. "Officer down. K-9 down." Her voice broke as Duke's dark eyes locked onto hers, somehow still alert despite the pain. "Stay with me, boy. Please stay with me." 18 months later, Alex sat in her pickup truck outside the Veterans Recovery Center, knuckles white against the steering wheel. The building before her, a converted ranch house nestled against the foothills of Colorado's Rocky Mountains, looked nothing like the sterile police precinct she'd left behind. After Duke's death and her subsequent panic attacks, the department had strongly suggested she take early retirement. At 34, her career was over. She glanced at the folder on the passenger seat. The job description seemed straightforward enough: train rescue dogs to assist veterans with PTSD. Her experience as a K-9 officer made her technically qualified, but Alex knew better. She was broken. The last thing these veterans needed was someone as damaged as they were. Her phone buzzed. Director Caleb Matthews, her new boss, if she could find the courage to get out of the truck. "Are you coming in, Officer Morgan? Or should I send a search party?" His voice was steady, with a hint of humor that did nothing to settle her nerves. "I'm just reviewing some notes," she lied, watching a man in a wheelchair roll onto the porch of the main building. Even from a distance, his military bearing was unmistakable. "I'll be right there." Alex hung up, took a deep breath, and finally stepped out of her truck. The mountain air was crisp against her face, carrying the scent of pine and something else, wet dog. She turned to see a staff member leading a group of mismatched canines across a fenced training yard. Most followed obediently, but one, a large shepherd mix with a ragged ear, strained against his leash, eyes fixed on Alex with unsettling intensity. Director Matthews met her at the entrance, his weathered face breaking into a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Officer Morgan, glad you could make it." "Just Alex now," she corrected, shaking his outstretched hand. "I'm not an officer anymore." "Once an officer, always an officer," he replied, leading her inside. "Law enforcement is like the military that way. It never quite leaves your blood." The center's interior was surprisingly homey: polished hardwood floors, comfortable furniture, walls adorned with photos of veterans and dogs. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling that she'd made a terrible mistake. Every instinct told her to leave, to protect herself from forming attachments that would inevitably lead to more pain. Our program pairs rescue dogs with veterans suffering from PTSD, anxiety, depression, the invisible wounds of war, Matthews explained as they walked. The dogs get a second chance, the veterans get a loyal companion, and both get to heal together. It's beautiful symmetry. Alex nodded, though beautiful was the last word she'd used to describe her own experience. Duke's death had left her hollow, a shadow of the confident officer she'd once been. "Your primary responsibility will be assessment and training," Matthews continued. "We need someone who can identify which dogs have service potential and develop customized training programs." They reached a window overlooking the rear training grounds, where veterans worked with dogs in various exercises. The sight triggered a flood of memories: Duke executing perfect takedowns, finding hidden drugs with unerring accuracy, sleeping at the foot of her bed after difficult shifts. "I should be upfront," Alex said, her throat tight. "I haven't worked with dogs since my partner was killed. I'm not sure I can." "That's precisely why I hired you," Matthews interrupted. "You understand loss. These veterans do too. And those dogs out there? Most were abandoned or abused before ending up in shelters. Everyone here knows what it means to need a second chance." Before Alex could respond, a commotion erupted outside. The shepherd mix she'd noticed earlier had broken free, dragging his leash as he bolted across the yard. Staff members scrambled to catch him, but the dog was fast, weaving between obstacles with determined precision. "That's Ranger," Matthews sighed. 3 shelters, 2 failed adoptions, and absolutely no interest in becoming a service dog. We're his last chance before. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Alex watched Ranger dart between buildings, evading his pursuers with almost tactical intelligence. There was something in his movements, his defiance, that stirred something inside her, recognition, perhaps. "He's scheduled for assessment tomorrow," Matthews said. "I was going to assign him to one of our more experienced trainers, but maybe." He gave Alex a sidelong glance. "No," she said firmly. "I'm not ready for that." But as she watched Ranger finally corner himself against the fence, hackles raised and eyes wild with fear disguised as aggression, Alex felt a pull she couldn't explain. This wasn't Duke. No dog ever would be. But in Ranger's defiant stance, she saw a reflection of her own broken spirit. Matthews seemed to read her thoughts. "Sometimes, Officer Morgan, the dog we think we're saving ends up saving us instead." Alex said nothing, but as Ranger was finally led back to the kennels, their eyes met once more across the yard. A challenge. A connection. A second chance neither of them was sure they wanted. Alex's first official day at the Veterans Recovery Center began at dawn. She barely slept, her dreams haunted by Duke's final moments intermingled with images of Ranger's defiant stare. She arrived early, hoping to familiarize herself with the facility before others arrived, but Matthews was already there, coffee in hand. "Early bird," he remarked, handing her a steaming mug. "Good. Shows you're serious." "We're just unable to sleep," Alex muttered, accepting the coffee. Matthews led her to his small office with a desk, computer, and wall of filing cabinets. "Your kingdom," he said. "Each file contains a dog's history, what we know of it, and assessment notes." Alex set down her coffee and pulled open the nearest drawer, scanning the tabs until she found what she was looking for. Ranger. The file was thicker than she expected, filled with incident reports and failed assessment forms. "He's been here 3 months," Matthews said, noting her interest despite yesterday's refusal. "Shelter found him chained outside an abandoned house. Malnourished, signs of abuse." Alex flipped through the pages. "Says here he bit 2 handlers. Defensive biting, not aggressive. He gives warning signs, most people just miss them." She raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like you're making excuses for him." "Maybe," Matthews admitted. "Or maybe I recognize that trauma manifests differently in each survivor, dogs included." Before Alex could respond, the office door swung open. A tall man with close-cropped gray hair and military posture filled the doorway, a prosthetic leg visible beneath his shorts. "You must be the cop," he said, voice gruff but not unfriendly. "Mike Reeves, Army Rangers. I work with the hard cases." His eyes flicked to the file in her hands, including that one. Alex closed the file. "Alex Morgan. And I was a cop." Past tense. Mike's weathered face broke into an unexpected smile. "Like hell you were. That badge stays with you, same as these." He tapped his chest where service medals would sit. "Caleb said you lost your partner." "Sorry to hear it." The casual mention of Duke sent a sharp pain through Alex's chest. "Thanks," she managed, changing the subject. "What exactly do you do here?" "I'm the resident dog whisperer," Mike said with a wink. "When the regular trainers give up, they call me. Been working with Ranger for weeks, but that dog." He shook his head. "Smart as hell, but trust issues a mile deep. Reminds me of someone," Matthews murmured, earning a sharp look from Alex. A bell sounded, signaling the start of the day's activities. Matthews checked his watch. Assessment session in 10 minutes. 6 new arrivals from the county shelter. He looked at Alex expectantly. "I'll observe today," she said quickly. "Get a feel for the process." Mike and Matthews exchanged a glance that Alex pretended not to notice. The assessment area was a large indoor space with rubber flooring, divided into sections for different evaluation exercises. Volunteers led in 6 dogs of various breeds and sizes, each wearing a numbered vest. Alex positioned herself in a corner, clipboard in hand, determined to maintain professional distance. The process was methodical: temperament testing, basic command response, reaction to sudden noises and movements. Most of the dogs performed adequately, showing potential despite their shelter backgrounds. But the last dog, a nervous black lab mix, froze when a metal bowl clattered to the floor, then bolted, hiding under a bench. "Wash," one of the trainers announced dismissively. "Too skittish for service work." Alex frowned, watching the trembling dog. "Has anyone tried counter-conditioning?" The trainer looked surprised. "For shelter dogs? We don't have the resources for extensive rehabilitation. Either they've got the right temperament or they don't." Something about his callous assessment triggered Alex's defenses. "So you just give up on them? One test and they're out." "That's not," Matthews began, but Alex cut him off. "What happens to the wash dogs?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Finally, Mike spoke up. "Best case? Regular adoption. Worst case?" He left the rest and said. Alex walked over to the cowering lab, kneeling at a respectful distance. She didn't attempt to touch or coax the dog, just sat quietly, averting her gaze, a technique she'd used with anxious dogs during her K-9 days. "His name's Shadow," Mike said, crouching beside her despite his prosthetic. "Third time he's been returned to the shelter." Minutes passed. Gradually, Shadow's trembling subsided. He inched forward, sniffing cautiously at Alex's outstretched hand. "He's not broken," Alex said softly. "He's just scared." "There's a difference." Mike studied her with newfound respect. "You might be right about that." As the assessment concluded, Alex helped return the dogs to their temporary kennels. When she reached Shadow's, she hesitated, then made a notation on his evaluation form. "Reconsider. Potential with specialized training." Matthews appeared beside her, reading over her shoulder. "Advocating for Shadow but avoiding Ranger?" he asked. Alex bristled. "I'm not avoiding anyone. I'm being strategic." "Strategic," Matthews repeated, unconvinced. "Well, strategically, I'd like you to stop by Ranger's kennel before you leave today. No handling required, just observation." "Why are you pushing this?" Alex demanded. "Because sometimes the most damaged souls recognize each other," Matthews replied simply. "And because Colonel Jefferson arrives next week." Alex frowned. "Who's Colonel Jefferson?" "Our biggest donor," Mike interjected, approaching with Shadow's leash. "Ex-military, big on results. And lately, questioning why we're wasting resources on certain difficult cases. Like Ranger," Alex concluded, the picture becoming clearer. Matthews nodded grimly. "The Colonel's visit coincides with our quarterly review. Dogs deemed unsuitable for the program will be reassigned." "You mean euthanized?" Alex translated bluntly. "Not if I can help it," Matthews insisted. "But I need solid evidence that every dog here has potential, including Ranger." Alex felt the weight of unspoken expectations settling on her shoulders. She'd come here to rebuild her life, not to take responsibility for another's. "I'll observe him," she conceded reluctantly. "That's all." Later, standing outside Ranger's kennel, Alex felt a familiar anxiety creeping up her spine. The shepherd mix watched her from the back of his enclosure, amber eyes unblinking, body tense but not aggressive. "He hasn't eaten today," a volunteer informed her, handing over his chart. "Barely touched his food all week." Alex scanned the notes, recognizing the pattern. Duke had behaved similarly during their first weeks together, a hunger strike born of uncertainty and fear disguised as defiance. "Has anyone just sat with him?" she asked. "No training, no expectations?" The volunteer looked surprised. "With Ranger? That's not protocol for the difficult cases." "Maybe that's the problem," Alex murmured. "Making a decision she would likely regret." Alex pulled over a folding chair and sat down outside Ranger's kennel, her back against the chain link. She didn't look at him, didn't speak, just opened a book she'd brought and began to read aloud, her voice soft and steady. Behind her, she heard Ranger shift, then settle. She didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge him, but she knew he was listening. It was a start, uneasy, uncertain, but a start nonetheless. For the next 3 days, Alex maintained her routine with Ranger. Each afternoon, she'd sit outside his kennel, back against the chain link, and read aloud from whatever book she'd brought that day. The shelter volunteers thought she was crazy. Mike Reeves thought she was stubborn. Director Matthews just watched with quiet interest. On the 4th day, something changed. Halfway through Chapter 6 of To Kill a Mockingbird, Alex felt a warm pressure against her back. Ranger had moved from his defensive position at the rear of the kennel and was sitting directly behind her, their bodies separated only by the fence. She kept reading, fighting the urge to turn around or acknowledge the breakthrough. When she finally closed the book an hour later, Ranger didn't retreat. She risked a glance over her shoulder, meeting those amber eyes that seemed to hold more understanding than most humans she'd encountered. "See you tomorrow," she said softly, rising to leave. As if in response, Ranger moved to his food bowl and began to eat. "Well, I'll be damned," said a voice from the doorway. Mike stood there, arms crossed, his prosthetic leg gleaming under the fluorescent lights. That's the first time he's eaten with someone in the room. Alex shrugged, uncomfortable with the implied success. He was probably just hungry. "Uh-huh," Mike said, unconvinced. "And my leg's gonna grow back any day now." The next morning, Alex found a note on her desk. Assessment yard, 10 a.m. Bring Ranger. Matthews. Her stomach tightened. Reading to a dog through a fence was one thing. Actually handling him was another level of commitment she wasn't sure she was ready for. At 9:55, she stood outside Ranger's kennel, leash in hand. The shepherd watched her with alert eyes, neither welcoming nor hostile. "This is a bad idea," she muttered, unlatching the door. To her surprise, Ranger didn't bolt. He stayed seated, head tilted slightly as if evaluating her intentions. Slowly, Alex entered the kennel and crouched a few feet away, extending her hand palm down, non-threatening, offering a scent connection without forcing contact. Ranger sniffed the air, then cautiously stretched his neck to sniff her fingers. "Good boy," she whispered. His tail gave a single, tentative wag. She clipped the leash to his collar without incident, but the true test came when she stood and gave a gentle tug toward the door. Ranger hesitated, clearly torn between newfound trust and ingrained caution. "It's okay," Alex said, her voice calm and steady. "We're just going for a walk." Step by step, they made their way to the assessment yard where Matthews waited alongside a middle-aged woman in a sharp business suit. Definitely not a staff member. "Alex," Matthews called, waving her over. "This is Dr. Vanessa Wright from the Veterans Affairs Office. She's evaluating our program for potential expansion funding." Alex felt her professional mask slip into place, a reflexive response from her policing days when surprise inspections arrived. "Ma'am," she nodded, subtly checking Ranger's posture for signs of stress. "Officer Morgan," Dr. Wright replied, glancing between Alex and the dog. "Director Matthews has been telling me about your unconventional approach with this particular case." "It's not really highly effective," Matthews interrupted smoothly. "Alex has made more progress with Ranger in 4 days than we've seen in 3 months. Dr. Wright studied Ranger with clinical interest. And you believe this dog has service potential, despite his history?" "I haven't made that determination yet," Alex replied honestly. "Show her," Matthews urged. Alex hesitated, then turned to Ranger. "Sit," she commanded softly. Ranger looked at her, seemingly processing the request, then slowly lowered his hindquarters to the ground. It wasn't impressive by service dog standards, but given Ranger's history of non-compliance, the simple act carried significant weight. Dr. Wright made a note in her folder. "Interesting." What other commands does he respond to? This is our first session outside the kennel, Alex admitted. We're still building trust. Dr. Wright's expression remained neutral. Trust is valuable, but these programs require measurable results. Colonel Jefferson has expressed concerns about resource allocation for animals with limited service potential. At the mention of Jefferson, Matthews stiffened almost imperceptibly. Colonel Jefferson's visit isn't for another 4 days. We anticipate significant progress by then. The exchange confirmed Alex's suspicions. There was more riding on Ranger's success than Matthews had initially revealed. She felt a flare of resentment at being maneuvered into this position. "If you'll excuse us," Alex said, keeping her voice even, "we should continue our training session." Dr. Wright nodded, turning back to Matthews. "I'll observe some of your other placements now." Once they were alone in the yard, Alex dropped Ranger's leash and stepped back, giving him space to explore. He moved cautiously at first, then with growing confidence, though he never strayed far from her. "What am I doing here, Ranger?" she murmured, watching him sniff the perimeter. "I didn't sign up to be your champion." As if sensing her conflict, Ranger returned to her side, sitting and looking up expectantly. Alex sighed and pulled a tennis ball from her pocket, a last-minute addition she hadn't fully acknowledged to herself. "Want to play?" she asked, showing him the ball. Ranger's ears perked forward, his posture shifting from cautious to interested. She tossed the ball gently across the yard. Ranger didn't move. Alex retrieved the ball herself and tried again, this time rolling it along the ground just a few feet away. Ranger watched it intently but remained planted. "It's okay to play," she said, demonstrating by picking up the ball herself and tossing it in the air. "See? It's fun." The third time she rolled the ball, Ranger took a hesitant step forward, then another, before finally picking it up. Instead of returning it, he carried it to the corner of the yard and laid down, ball between his paws, watching her. Alex recognized the behavior from Duke's early training. "You don't know the rules," she realized aloud. "Nobody ever taught you how to play." The revelation struck deeper than she expected. A dog who didn't know how to play had never been allowed to be a dog, just as she, in the months following Duke's death, had forgotten how to be herself. She sat down on the ground, patting the space beside her. After a moment's consideration, Ranger approached, still carrying the tennis ball. When he was close enough, Alex gently reached for the ball, careful not to grab or pull. He released it without resistance. "Good boy," she praised, then rolled it back to him. This time, he picked it up immediately. They repeated the exchange, a simple game of give and take that gradually evolved as Ranger began to understand the concept of play. By the time Mike arrived an hour later, Alex was laughing as Ranger bounded across the yard, returning the ball with growing enthusiasm. The sound of her own laughter startled her. It had been so long since she'd felt that simple, unguarded joy. Mike leaned against the fence, observing quietly before speaking. "Looks like someone's breaking through. Both of you." Alex's smile faded, her defenses rising. "It's just basic training." "No," Mike said firmly. "It's connection, and it scares the hell out of you." Before Alex could protest, the yard gate opened and a young man in a wheelchair rolled in. His right sleeve hung empty, pinned neatly at the shoulder. "Jason," Mike greeted him. "You're just in time." "Alex, this is Sergeant Jason Cruz, one of our veterans waiting for a service dog match." Jason nodded politely, his eyes drawn to Ranger. "Is that the problem case everyone's talking about? Doesn't look so tough to me." As if triggered by the new presence, Ranger retreated to Alex's side, his posture alert but not aggressive. "He's making progress," Alex said, feeling oddly protective. Jason wheeled closer, stopping when Ranger stiffened. "Hey, I get it," he said, addressing the dog directly. "Trust issues, right? Join the club." Something in Jason's tone resonated with both Alex and Ranger. The dog's ears flicked forward with interest. "Mind if I hang out for a bit?" Jason asked. "My therapy session got canceled." Alex looked to Mike, who nodded encouragingly. Sure, she agreed cautiously. We're just working on basic commands. For the next 30 minutes, Jason observed as Alex worked with Ranger on sit, stay, and come. To her surprise, Ranger performed each command with growing confidence, especially when Jason offered words of encouragement. You've got military written all over you, Jason commented as they wrapped up the session. What branch? I wasn't military, Alex corrected. K. 9 police unit. Jason studied her. You lost your partner. I can tell. The statement, delivered without pity or artifice, caught Alex off guard. How? Same look all of us have, Jason replied simply. Like part of you is still searching for something that's gone. The accuracy of his assessment left Alex momentarily speechless. Ranger's a good dog, Jason continued, wheeling toward the gate. Reminds me of myself when I first got here, all attitude and no trust. If you give up on him, you're giving up on all of us. After Jason left, Alex reattached Ranger's leash, her mind processing everything that had transpired. Jason's been waiting 3 months for a service dog match, Mike explained. None of the previous candidates have worked out. Alex glanced at Ranger, then at Mike, comprehension dawning. You think Ranger? I think the most broken souls find each other, Mike replied, echoing Matthew's earlier sentiment. Question is, are you willing to be part of that equation? As they walked back to the kennels, Alex felt the weight of responsibility settling more firmly on her shoulders. This wasn't just about saving one dog anymore. It was about interconnected healing, Ranger's, Jason's, and perhaps, most frighteningly, her own. 2 days before Colonel Jefferson's scheduled visit, Director Matthews called an emergency staff meeting. Alex arrived to find the conference room already filled with tense faces, Mike seated near the front, his expression grim. We have a situation, Matthews announced without preamble. Colonel Jefferson has moved up his visit. He'll be here tomorrow morning. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. A trainer raised her hand. But the demonstrations aren't ready. We were counting on those extra days. I'm aware, Matthews replied tightly. But apparently, the colonel received some concerning information about our resource allocation. We need to present our best cases tomorrow, dogs with clear service potential and measurable progress. His gaze settled on Alex. How's Ranger coming along? Every head turned in her direction. Alex felt her throat constrict. In the past week, Ranger had made progress. He now responded to basic commands and showed no signs of aggression, but he was nowhere near service dog standards. He's improving, she managed. But he's not ready for a formal demonstration. Matthew's expression didn't change, but disappointment radiated from him. Then we'll need to focus on our more advanced candidates. I've scheduled Jason Cruz for a demonstration with Shadow. Shadow? Alex straightened. The lab you were ready to wash out last week? He's shown remarkable improvement since you've been working with him. Exactly. Because he needed time. Just like Ranger needs time. Mike cleared his throat. Time isn't a luxury we have right now, Alex. Jefferson wants results, not potential. The meeting continued, but Alex barely heard the rest of it. Her mind was racing, calculating how much progress she could realistically achieve with Ranger in less than 24 hours. Not enough, she knew. Not nearly enough. After the meeting, she cornered Matthews in the hallway. This is insane. You can't judge a dog's potential in a rush demonstration. I don't make the rules, Officer Morgan. Colonel Jefferson does, or at least he makes the ones attached to our funding. Matthews ran a hand through his thinning hair. Look, focus on getting Ranger to perform basic obedience commands reliably. Anything beyond that is bonus. And if he can't? Alex pushed. Then we'll have to transfer him. Matthews held up a hand to forestall her protest. I don't like it any more than you do, but we've got veterans waiting for service dogs. I can't prioritize one difficult case over the needs of the people we're here to serve. Alex felt a familiar rage building inside her, the same helpless fury she'd experienced when Duke died. This is wrong, and you know it. Then prove me wrong, Matthews challenged. Show Jefferson that Ranger has what it takes. She spent the rest of the afternoon with Ranger in the training yard, drilling basic commands until both were exhausted. The shepherd was trying. Alex could see it in his focused gaze, his earnest attempts to please her, but his responses were still inconsistent, especially when distracted. Come on, Ranger, she urged after a failed recall attempt. You can do this. You're pushing too hard, came Mike's voice from behind her. He entered the yard, closing the gate quietly. Dogs can sense frustration. Makes them anxious. Alex wiped sweat from her forehead. We don't have time for gentle coaxing. Jefferson will be here tomorrow. And what happens if Ranger fails his test? Mike asked, leaning against the fence. You going to abandon him too? The accusation stung. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm trying to save him. Mike studied her with those knowing eyes that seemed to see right through her defenses. Seems to me you've got a habit of taking on impossible missions. Was it the same with your K-9 partner? Alex stiffened. Don't talk about Duke. Why not? He's the reason you're here. The reason you connect with Ranger. I said drop it. Her voice was steel, a warning Mike recognized from his military days. He raised his hands in surrender. All I'm saying is, don't confuse saving Ranger with saving Duke. One's possible, one isn't. After Mike left, Alex sank onto a bench. Suddenly drained. Ranger approached cautiously, sensing her distress. He nudged her hand with his nose, those intelligent eyes fixed on her face. Mike's right, she whispered, scratching behind his ears. I am pushing too hard. She thought of Duke, his unwavering loyalty, his confident precision in the field. He'd been the perfect partner, until a bullet meant for her had taken him instead. Now she was trying to mold Ranger into something he might never be, all to prevent another loss she couldn't bear. That evening, instead of continuing the relentless training, Alex took Ranger for a long walk around the property. They moved at his pace, stopping whenever something caught his interest. No commands, no expectations, just companionship as the setting sun painted the mountains in fiery gold. When they reached a quiet overlook, Alex sat on a large rock, unclipping Ranger's leash to let him explore. Instead, he settled beside her, his warm presence comforting in the cooling air. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, she told him, her voice soft. But whatever Jefferson decides, I won't let you go back to a shelter. The promise felt monumental, a commitment she hadn't been ready to make until this moment. Ranger leaned against her leg, almost as if he understood. As darkness fell, they made their way back to the center. Alex had just returned Ranger to his kennel when she noticed Jason sitting in his wheelchair outside the main building, gazing at the stars. Can't sleep? She asked, approaching. Never can. Night before an evaluation, he replied, offering a wry smile. How's it going with the problem child? Alex shrugged, sitting on a nearby bench. He's trying. Might not be enough for tomorrow. Jason nodded, understanding in his eyes. The colonel's a hard ass. Everything's black and white with him. Either you meet standard or you don't. Military thinking, Alex commented. Yeah, but it's bullshit when applied to recovery. Jason gestured to his missing arm. Some days I can barely get out of bed. Other days, I can almost forget what I lost. Recovery isn't linear, you know? Alex thought of her own journey since Duke's death, the panic attacks, the nightmares, the days when getting dressed felt like climbing Everest. I know. They sat in companionable silence until Jason spoke again. I saw you working with Shadow today. Matthews wants you to demonstrate with him tomorrow. Jason frowned. He's a good dog, but we don't click. Not like. Like what? Like you and Ranger. Jason looked embarrassed by the admission. I've been watching you guys. He looks at you the way my squad used to look at our lieutenant, like he'd follow you anywhere. The comparison caught Alex off guard. He's just responding to consistent handling. It's more than that, Jason insisted. Trust me, I've worked with 4 potential service dogs since I got here. None of them connected like Ranger does with you. A plan began forming in Alex's mind, risky, possibly career-ending, but potentially the only way to save Ranger. "What if," she said slowly, "you worked with Ranger tomorrow instead of Shadow?" Jason's eyebrows shot up. Matthews would flip. Matthews wants to impress Jefferson. What better way than showing how a problem case can become the perfect match? But we've never trained together. We can. Tonight. Jason studied her with newfound respect. "You really care about that dog, don't you?" Alex couldn't deny it any longer. "I do." "Then let's do it. But you know this could backfire spectacularly, right?" "Story of my life," Alex replied with a grim smile. For the next 3 hours, they worked in the indoor training room, the only area without security cameras. Alex guided Ranger through commands while Jason gradually took over, his voice firm but kind, his expectations clear. To her amazement, Ranger responded to him almost as readily as to her, particularly when Jason used a specific commanding tone that reminded Alex of military drills. He respects the chain of command, Alex realized aloud. That's why he never responded to the regular trainers. They were inconsistent, uncertain. By midnight, Ranger was consistently performing basic service dog tasks with Jason, retrieving dropped items, providing stabilization for transfers in and out of the wheelchair, even responding to signs of anxiety by applying gentle pressure against Jason's leg. "He's not perfect," Jason said as they prepared to call it a night, "but he's genuine. That counts for something in my book." "Let's hope it counts in Jefferson's too," Alex replied. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Alex arrived at the center early, her stomach knotted with anxiety. She found Matthews in his office, already dressed in a crisp suit that seemed at odds with his usual casual attire. "Colonel Jefferson will be here at 9, he informed her, straightening papers on his desk. "We'll start with the advanced dogs, then move to intermediate cases. I've scheduled Shadow with Jason at 10. Alex took a deep breath. "I'd like to propose a change." Matthews looked up sharply. "This is not the time for experimentation, Officer Morgan. Just hear me out. Jason doesn't connect with Shadow, but he does with Ranger." "Ranger?" "The dog who barely responds to commands." Matthews laughed incredulously. "Jefferson would shut us down on the spot." "Not if he sees what I saw last night," Alex countered. Before Matthews could respond, the front desk called to announce Colonel Jefferson's arrival. The moment of decision had arrived, and Alex could see the conflict in Matthews' eyes. Stick with the safe choice or take a risk that could either save or doom them all. "This better work," he finally muttered, straightening his tie. "Because if it doesn't, we're both finished here." Colonel Jefferson was exactly as Alex had imagined. Ramrod straight posture, meticulously pressed uniform despite being retired, and an expression that suggested he'd already found the entire center lacking. He shook Matthews' hand with military precision, barely glancing at Alex when introduced. "We'll begin with our advanced candidates," Matthews explained, leading them to the main training area where several veterans and their matched service dogs waited. "These pairs are nearly ready for certification." Alex hung back, watching as one dog after another performed impressive tasks, retrieving dropped items, alerting to anxiety symptoms, providing mobility assistance. Jefferson nodded occasionally but offered no praise, jotting notes in a small leather-bound book. "Adequate," he commented at the conclusion, though response times could be improved. Matthews forced a smile. "Our intermediate cases are next. These dogs have been in training for 3 to 6 months." As they moved to the next demonstration area, Alex slipped away to find Jason and Ranger. She'd stashed the shepherd in a quiet corner of the building, away from the commotion of the main event. Jason was already there, dressed in a crisp button-down shirt, his wheelchair polished to a military shine. "Ready?" Alex asked, trying to hide her nervousness. Jason adjusted his empty sleeve. "As I'll ever be. How's our boy?" Ranger sat beside Jason's wheelchair, alert but calm, a stark contrast to the anxious dog Alex had first encountered. She knelt, giving him a quick scratch behind the ears. "He looks good," she said. "Remember, focus on the basics we practiced. Don't try anything fancy." Jason nodded. "Basic commands, light mobility assistance, grounding pressure." "Got it." Alex checked her watch. Shadow's demonstration with one of the regular trainers would be happening now, which meant they had less than 15 minutes before Matthews expected Jason to appear with the black lab. "I'll go prep Matthews," she said, rising. "Your cue is when I wave from the doorway." As she turned to leave, Jason caught her wrist. "Hey, Morgan. Thanks for believing in us. Both of us." Alex felt something shift inside her, a loosening of the armor she'd built around her heart since Duke's death. "Just don't make me regret it," she replied, but there was no bite to her words. Back at the demonstration area, Matthews was growing visibly tense as he watched Shadow working with the trainer. The lab was performing adequately, but without enthusiasm or connection, exactly as Jason had described. "Shadow has made remarkable progress," Matthews was saying. "He'll be paired with one of our veterans today." Jefferson consulted his notes. "Sergeant Cruz, correct?" "The amputee." "Yes, sir. Jason is one of our most dedicated participants." Alex stepped beside Matthews, keeping her voice low. "Can I speak with you privately, Director?" Matthews excused himself, following Alex to a quiet corner. "What is it?" "Change of plans," she said firmly. "Jason's demonstrating with Ranger, not Shadow." Matthews' face reddened. "We discussed this. It's too risky. It's already done. They're waiting for my signal." "Damn it, Morgan. You're putting the entire program at risk." Alex met his gaze steadily. "You hired me because I understand docs. I'm telling you, Ranger and Jason are the real deal. Shadow isn't right for him." Matthews ran a hand over his face. "If this backfires, I'll take full responsibility," Alex finished. "But it won't." For a moment, Matthews looked like he might refuse. Then, with a resigned sigh, he nodded. "Signal them." Alex moved to the doorway and waved. Seconds later, Jason wheeled into the room with Ranger walking precisely at his side, matching his pace exactly, something they hadn't even practiced. Jefferson frowned, consulting his notes again. "This isn't Shadow." "No, sir," Matthews said, recovering admirably. "This is Ranger, another candidate we've been assessing with Sergeant Cruz." Jefferson's eyes narrowed. "The problem case I've heard about? The one deemed potentially unsuitable?" Before Matthews could respond, Jason spoke up. "Permission to demonstrate." "Sir." The military formality seemed to resonate with Jefferson. He nodded curtly. What followed left everyone in the room speechless. Jason guided Ranger through a series of commands: sit, stay, come, heal, each executed with perfect precision. Then they moved to service tasks. Ranger retrieved Jason's water bottle, a penny dropped, and a small bag from across the room. Most impressively, when Jason pretended to show signs of anxiety, rapid breathing, tapping fingers, Ranger immediately pressed his body against Jason's leg, providing grounding pressure. Throughout the demonstration, the connection between them was palpable. Ranger's eyes rarely left Jason's face, anticipating commands before they were fully spoken. Jason, in turn, moved with a confidence Alex hadn't seen before, his voice steady and assured. Jefferson watched without comment, his expression unreadable. When the demonstration concluded, the room fell silent, waiting for his verdict. "How long have they been training together?" Jefferson asked finally. Matthews hesitated, looking to Alex for guidance. "Officially, since last night, sir," Jason answered honestly. Jefferson's eyebrows shot up. "Last night? That's impossible." "Not impossible, sir. Just unlikely." Jason reached down to stroke Ranger's head. "Sometimes the right connection makes all the difference." Jefferson turned to Matthews. "Is this some kind of stunt, Director? Because I don't appreciate having my time wasted." "No stunt, Colonel," Matthews replied. just an unexpected development. Officer Morgan discovered the potential in both Ranger and the pairing with Sergeant Cruz. Jefferson's piercing gaze shifted to Alex. Officer Morgan, the K-9 specialist with the unorthodox methods I've been hearing about. Alex straightened instinctively. Yes, sir. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. Alex followed Jefferson outside, heart pounding. Ranger, sensing her departure, whined softly but stayed with Jason. Outside, Jefferson stopped by a bench overlooking the mountains. Sit, he ordered, and Alex complied, feeling oddly like one of the dogs in training. You disobeyed protocol, Jefferson stated. Switched dogs without authorization, conducted unsupervised training, circumvented the proper assessment process. Yes, sir. Why? The simple question caught her off guard. She had expected accusations, threats to funding, perhaps even a demand for her dismissal. Instead, Jefferson seemed genuinely curious. Because I saw something in Ranger that others missed, she said carefully. And then I saw the same thing in Jason. They needed each other, even if that need didn't fit neatly into program metrics. Jefferson studied her, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. You lost someone, didn't you? A partner. Alex swallowed hard. My K-9. Duke. He took a bullet meant for me. Jefferson nodded slowly. I lost men under my command. The weight of survival, it stays with you. Yes, sir, it does. Is that why you pushed so hard for Ranger? Because you couldn't save your partner? The question struck at the core of Alex's motivation, the wound she'd been avoiding since arriving at the center. At first, maybe, she admitted. But then it became about Ranger himself. And Jason. They both deserve a second chance. Jefferson was silent for a long moment, gazing at the mountains. Do you know why I founded this program, Officer Morgan? To help veterans, sir. To help them find purpose again. Jefferson turned to face her. After combat, many soldiers struggle to find meaning. A service dog provides not just assistance, but responsibility, connection, unconditional acceptance. Things the military teaches you to suppress. Alex hadn't expected this level of insight from the hard-nosed colonel. The metrics, the assessments, they're necessary for funding and accountability, Jefferson continued. But they're not the heart of the program. He stood, straightening his jacket. What you showed me today was exactly what I've been looking for. Genuine connection, not just trained responses. Hope flickered in Alex's chest. Does that mean? It means I'm approving your funding for another year, Jefferson confirmed. With a stipulation. Sir, you, Officer Morgan, will develop a specialized training protocol for difficult cases like Ranger. Dogs that might not fit the standard assessment model but still have service potential. Alex was momentarily speechless. Thank you, sir. Jefferson offered a rare smile. Don't thank me yet. I expect detailed reports, measurable outcomes, and at least 3 success stories by my next visit. He extended his hand. Think you're up to it? Alex stood, shaking his hand firmly. Yes, sir. Absolutely. As they walked back toward the center, Jefferson spoke again, his tone conversational. You know, my first combat dog was deemed unsuitable for service 3 times before I got him. Stubborn as hell, wouldn't listen to anyone. But he saved my life in Fallujah. Alex glanced at him, seeing the colonel in a new light. What happened to him? Retired with me. Lived to be 15. Jefferson's voice held a warmth she hadn't heard before. Still the best partner I ever had. Inside, they found Matthew showing Jefferson's aide around while Jason and Ranger waited anxiously. When Alex entered with Jefferson, Jason straightened in his wheelchair, searching her face for some sign of the outcome. Sergeant Cruz, Jefferson addressed him directly. Your demonstration with Ranger was impressive. With continued training, do you believe he'll meet your service needs? Without a doubt, sir, Jason replied without hesitation. He already understands what I need. Sometimes before I do. Jefferson nodded. Then consider him provisionally assigned to you, pending completion of the official training program. Jason's face lit up with the first genuine smile Alex had seen from him. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Thank Officer Morgan. This is her victory as much as yours. After Jefferson departed with Matthews to discuss budget details, Alex found herself surrounded by staff members offering congratulations and, in some cases, apologies for doubting her methods. She accepted them graciously but soon slipped away, needing a moment alone. She found herself at Ranger's kennel, now empty. The space where she'd sat reading to him, the water bowl she'd filled, the blanket he'd finally used after days of resistance, all tangible reminders of their journey together. A journey that was ending, or at least transforming into something else. He'll be living with me now, came Jason's voice from behind her. He wheeled up beside Alex, Ranger walking proudly at his side. They're setting up the paperwork for me to take him home after the final training phase. That's great, Alex said, meaning it despite the hollow feeling in her chest. You two are perfect together. Because of you, Jason said simply. You saw what everyone else missed. Alex shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. Anyone who really looked would have seen it, but they didn't look. You did. Jason studied her. You know, there's room in this partnership for 3, if you're interested. What do you mean? I mean, Ranger and I still need training. Jefferson approved you to develop this new program, right? We could be your first official case. Alex felt something loosen in her chest, the knot of grief and guilt she'd carried since Duke's death, beginning to unravel at last. I'd like that, she said softly. Ranger moved to her side, pressing against her leg in the same comforting way he'd done with Jason during the demonstration. His amber eyes, once filled with distrust, now looked up at her with unmistakable affection. I think you would too, Jason smiled. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the center grounds, Alex found herself walking beside Jason's wheelchair, Ranger trotting between them, not fully hers anymore, but not entirely gone either. A bridge between her past and her future, between loss and possibility. For the first time since Duke's death, the path ahead of her didn't seem empty. It was filled with purpose, connection, and the quiet understanding that sometimes the hearts that need healing most are the ones best equipped to heal others. 6 months later, Alex stood at the edge of the training yard, clipboard in hand, watching Ranger guide Jason through a crowded obstacle course. The shepherd moved with confidence, anticipating Jason's needs as they navigated through volunteers who deliberately stood in their path or dropped items that could impede a wheelchair. Perfect, Alex called as they completed the circuit. That's a personal best time. Jason grinned, reaching down to ruffle Ranger's fur. Hear that, buddy? We're getting good at this. In the months since Colonel Jefferson's visit, the Veterans Recovery Center had transformed. The Second Chance program, Alex's specialized protocol for difficult cases, had received national attention, bringing in additional funding and a waiting list of veterans eager to participate. Under her guidance, 3 more problem dogs had been successfully paired with veterans, each match as unique and effective as Ranger and Jason's. Officer Morgan, Matthews called, approaching from the main building. You have visitors. Alex turned to see Mike leading a couple toward her, the woman heavily pregnant, the man carrying a toddler who squirmed to be set down. She didn't recognize them immediately, but there was something familiar about the woman's gentle smile. This is Claire and David Simmons, Matthews introduced them. They're here about Shadow. Recognition dawned. Shadow, the black lab mix who had cowered during his assessment, the dog Alex had advocated for when everyone else had written him off. After Jefferson's visit, Shadow had been matched with a trainer specialized in anxiety responses, but Alex had lost track of his progress when her own program took off. Shadow's been amazing with our son, Claire explained, setting the toddler down carefully. Before we got him, Tommy's anxiety attacks were almost daily. Now they're rare. Alex watched as Tommy toddled toward Jason and Ranger. The boy showed no fear, despite his apparent shyness, and Ranger responded with gentle curiosity, sniffing the child's hand when offered. "We wanted to thank you personally," David added. "Dr. Matthews told us you were the one who fought to keep Shadow in the program." "I just saw his potential," Alex said, touched by their gratitude. "Well, we're expanding our family," Claire smiled, patting her rounded belly. "And we were hoping you might help us find another service dog for our new arrival. The doctors suspect she may have the same sensory issues as Tommy." Before Alex could respond, a commotion at the front gate caught everyone's attention. A police cruiser had pulled up, and an officer was escorting a German Shepherd toward the center. "Excuse me," Alex said, hurrying to meet them, a knot forming in her stomach at the sight of a police K-9. The officer, young, maybe mid-20s, with a name tag reading Rodriguez, smiled nervously when he saw Alex approaching. "Officer Morgan? I'm Leo Rodriguez from the Mill Creek PD." "Just Alex now," she corrected automatically. "What can I do for you?" "I heard about your program for difficult cases," Rodriguez explained, glancing down at the shepherd beside him. "This is Rex. He was my partner, but after a shooting incident last month, he's been different. Skittish. Won't work. The department wants to retire him, but I can't just." His voice trailed off, and Alex recognized the same desperation she'd felt when she first arrived at the center, the fear of losing a partner, of failing them somehow. "He saved my life," Rodriguez continued quietly. "Took down the shooter when I was pinned. But now he freezes up whenever we approach a building, won't even get out of the cruiser sometimes. My sergeant says he's a liability." Alex knelt, offering her hand to Rex. The shepherd approached cautiously, his body language reminding her painfully of Duke, the military precision, the intelligent assessment, the invisible bond with his handler. "Has he been evaluated for PTSD?" she asked. Rodriguez nodded. "Department vet says it's likely. They've given me 3 weeks to find a solution, or—" He didn't finish the sentence. Alex didn't need him to. She knew exactly what happened to police dogs deemed unsuitable for service. Not all departments treated them like the officers they were. "Come inside," she said, rising. "Let's talk about options." As they walked toward the main building, Jason wheeled over to join them, Ranger still at his side. "New recruit?" he asked, eyeing Rex. "Potentially," Alex replied. "This is Officer Rodriguez and Rex. They've had a rough few months." Jason nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Sounds familiar." He extended his hand to Rodriguez. "Jason Cruz. Ranger and I were Alex's first difficult case. Now we help train the newbies." Rex, noticing Ranger, stiffened momentarily. The two shepherds assessed each other with professional curiosity rather than aggression. "They recognize a kindred spirit," Alex observed. "Both working dogs, both survivors." Rodriguez watched the interaction with cautious hope. "So you think you can help him?" "Help us?" "I don't know yet," Alex admitted. "But I know we can try. That's more than most places will offer." Inside Matthew's office, Alex outlined the potential challenges and options while Rodriguez filled out preliminary paperwork. Rex lay at his handler's feet, alert but calm in the quiet environment. "The program typically pairs rescue dogs with veterans," Matthews explained. "But we've been discussing an expansion to include retired working dogs. Rex could be our first case." "What would it involve?" Rodriguez asked. "You'd need to commit to the training," Alex said. "It's not just about rehabilitating Rex. It's about rebuilding your partnership. 3 sessions a week, minimum." "I can do that. I'd do anything for him." The certainty in Rodriguez's voice resonated with Alex. It was the same determination she'd felt with Duke, the same bond she'd recognized in Jason and Ranger. "Then we'll start tomorrow," she decided. "Basic assessment, then a specialized protocol based on what we find." After Rodriguez left, Promising to return the next day, Matthews gave Alex a knowing look. Taking on another challenge? If not us, then who? Alex replied. Indeed. Matthews handed her a folder. Jefferson called this morning. He's impressed with our progress and wants to expand the program nationally. He's asking if you'd consider a consulting role, traveling to other centers, training their staff in your methods. Alex blinked, caught off guard by the opportunity. I don't know. My place is here. Is it? Matthews asked gently. Or is it wherever you're needed most? The question followed Alex throughout the day. By evening, she found herself at the small memorial garden the center had established on its eastern edge. A simple stone marker commemorated the service dogs who had passed, including Duke. She'd avoided the spot for months, but tonight, something drew her there. Thought I might find you here, came Mike's voice. He approached slowly, respectful of her solitude. Rodriguez's visit brought it all back, didn't it? Alex nodded, not trusting her voice. You know, when you first showed up here, I gave you 2 weeks tops, Mike admitted, leaning against a nearby tree. Figured you'd run once you realized fixing these dogs meant fixing yourself too. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Alex said dryly. Mike shrugged. Been wrong before. Glad I was wrong about you. He studied her thoughtfully. So, you taking Jefferson's offer? News traveled fast in small communities. I haven't decided. What's stopping you? Alex gestured around them. This place. The program. The dogs we haven't saved yet. The dogs, or yourself? Mike's question was gentle but direct. Because from where I'm standing, you've already done the hardest part. You've healed. Had she? Alex thought of the panic attacks that no longer came, the nightmares that had faded, the guilt that had transformed into purpose. She thought of Ranger, who now slept peacefully in Jason's home instead of pacing anxiously in a kennel. Of Shadow, bringing comfort to a child who needed him. Of Rex, whose story was just beginning. Not completely, she said honestly, but enough to help others. Then maybe that's your answer, Mike suggested. You've built something valuable here. Now you can help others build it elsewhere. As Mike left her to her thoughts, Alex turned back to Duke's memorial. For so long, she'd equated moving forward with leaving him behind. But standing here now, she realized that wasn't true. Duke was part of her story, the chapter that had led her to this place, to Ranger, to her purpose. Alex. Jason's voice broke through her reverie. He wheeled up beside her, Ranger at his side. Sorry to interrupt. We're heading home. Wanted to say good night. No problem, she smiled, finding it easier than expected. Big day tomorrow with Rex. You're taking his case personally. He reminds me of Duke, Alex admitted. Jason nodded. I get it. When I first lost my arm, I saw myself in every wounded soldier. Wanted to save them all. How'd that work out for you? Exhausting, Jason laughed. Until I realized I couldn't save everyone. But I could be there, show them it gets better. He gestured to his missing arm, then to his service dog. I'm living proof. As if understanding he was being discussed, Ranger moved to sit between them, his presence a bridge connecting their shared experiences. You know, Jason continued, if you take Jefferson's offer, we could come with you. Part of the demonstration team. Alex looked up, surprised. You do that? In a heartbeat. What we've got here, what you built, it deserves to be shared. The three of them stayed there as twilight deepened into night, the stars emerging one by one above the mountains. Alex felt a peace she hadn't expected, a certainty forming where doubt had lived for so long. The next morning, she arrived at the center before dawn, a decision made. She found Matthews already in his office, reviewing files. I'll take Jefferson's offer, she said without preamble. But I have conditions. Matthews leaned back in his chair, smiling. I'm listening. I want to establish a formal protocol for police canines suffering from PTSD. They deserve the same second chances we're giving these other dogs. Agreed. What else? I want to create a training manual, something that can be implemented even in resource-limited shelters. Too many good dogs are being put down because they don't fit standard assessment criteria. Matthews nodded. We can do that. And I want Jason and Ranger to be part of the demonstration team. They're the proof that this works. I think that can be arranged. Matthews extended his hand. Congratulations, Officer Morgan. You've come full circle. Later that day, as she worked with Rodriguez and Rex in the quiet corner of the yard where she'd once sat reading to Ranger, Alex felt the truth of Matthew's words. She had come full circle, from loss to healing, from isolation to connection, from saving one dog to creating a system that could save hundreds. Rex, initially tense and vigilant, gradually relaxed as the session progressed. When Rodriguez executed a perfect recall command, the shepherd bounding back to his side with renewed confidence, Alex saw the same spark of hope in the officer's eyes that she'd felt when Ranger first responded to her. He'll be okay, she assured Rodriguez. It takes time, but the bond you have, it's strong enough to rebuild. Thank you, Rodriguez said, emotion thick in his voice, for believing that was possible. From across the yard, Alex spotted Jason working with one of the new veteran dog pairs, Ranger demonstrating a complex assistance task. The shepherd executed the move flawlessly, then looked to Jason for approval rather than to Alex, a sign of their complete partnership. She felt no jealousy, only pride. Ranger had been her bridge back to life, but he was Jason's companion for the journey ahead, just as Duke had been hers for a time, serving his purpose with unwavering loyalty until the very end. As the sun climbed higher, bathing the center in golden light, Alex watched the various pairs working throughout the yard, each one a testament to second chances, to the healing power of connection, to the remarkable resilience of both humans and animals. She thought of the frightened, defensive shepherd she'd first encountered, and the confident service dog Ranger had become, of the broken, guilt-ridden officer she'd been, and the purposeful trainer she now was. Their paths had converged when both needed it most, each saving the other in ways neither could have anticipated. And though their journeys would now diverge, Ranger with Jason, Alex with her expanding program, the impact of their connection would ripple outward, touching countless lives. The second chance shepherd had found his purpose, and in doing so, had helped her find hers. Ready for the next case? Jason asked, wheeling up beside her as the training session wound down. Alex smiled, watching Rex trot confidently beside Rodriguez, head high, step sure. Always, she replied. And she was, ready to face whatever came next, carrying with her the lessons of the past without being weighed down by them. Ready to continue the work of healing others and herself, one broken soul at a time. Because sometimes, the best way to honor what's lost is to save what remains. And in the process, perhaps find that you've saved yourself as well.